Good evening, everyone. It's Joe Abadi. Welcome to Vintage Motocross Q&A. We're live from the South Point in Las Vegas for the Mecum motorcycle auction tonight. A very special guest. You probably know the name Motion Pro. If you go to a race, you'll see a big blue banner with the name Motion Pro on it. If you've got tools in your garage, I bet somewhere in there something says Motion Pro. I'm speaking, of course, of Chris Carter. Chris,
hey, Joe.
Thanks for taking the time to speak to me.
How could I not, Joe?
Well,
I mean, you know,
it's
what an opportunity. Get to visit with my buddies here at Mecum, and what a show. You know, we're into our third day, actually into the second day, and 1,700 motorcycles, and they've gone through maybe, what, 600, 700 already? I don't know.
At least, and it seems to be they seem to be doing about one a minute. And as you can see behind us, everyone who's watching, there are over 3,000 motorcycles here, and they'll go wide open from today all the way through Saturday afternoon.
Joe, you exaggerated a little bit. It's only 1,700.
1,700.
But that's okay. You're a salesman. So.
It just seems bigger to me.
Yeah.
It seems bigger to me.
But it is. It's you know, folks, if you haven't been to this event, it's a great bike show. Even if you're not in the market for a new bike, this is really it's a fantastic motorcycle show. Get here early, spend a couple of days in Vegas. You'll see every kind of motorcycle that's ever been existed, from motocross bikes to street bikes to vintage bikes. It's really a great experience.
Now, Chris, let me ask you, what have you seen so far that's caught your eye as far as a sale goes? Maybe something a little high or a bargain. What have you seen so far that kind of caught your attention?
Well, you know, last year, a lot of them, I'll call them mini bikes, the little CT90s and all the monkey bikes and that sort of stuff, they were bringing big money last year. And I guess guys decided, well, I have an opportunity here. And this year, maybe last year was half a dozen. This year, I don't think I'm exaggerating, there might have been 50 of them here. And the prices were all over the place, from $3,500 to $7,000. And I think there's some real bargains yesterday on the first day. There was a real nice 360 side pipe, that very original bike, with just a few modifications on it, and it was period correct. And it went for a real bargain, like $4,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can look at
yeah.
That,
So.
look at that.
All right, well,
just speak louder.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you were talking about like the monkey bike. Last year, I remember one going for like $18,000.
Right.
So I think that kind of, you know, it starts a thing and it starts to spin, and the guy who saw that last year will bring one this year, and then maybe thinking he's going to do the same thing.
Right.
That doesn't always work out that way.
Exactly. And so this year will probably be some bikes that the prices seem to be maybe in some things a little soft, but there's some real bargains here. When you go to store a bike and you start looking at what it costs for plating and painting, so you might find a bike here that's pretty nice, that some of the stuff is done and just needs some buffing out and detailing. So it might be some real bargains for people here. And there's some good carcasses here if you're going to build a race bike that would cost too much to restore. And there's some bikes here that you might buy that are too nice to race. So,
Sure. Now, I'd like to talk about a bike with you that I know is near and dear to your heart. I don't know anyone that owns more Suzuki RH67s than you do.
Well,
so, but we can talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
Right now, I remember one, it was 2 years ago. It needed restoration.
Right.
It sold for close to $27,000, I think.
actually, it's $33,000.
$33,000.
I keep track of those things.
Okay.
They built about 110 of those bikes.
Yeah.
And those bikes, when they brought them out, they went to dealers that raced. Suzuki got those bikes, and motocross, as you know, is just kind of coming on.
Sure.
68. And so a lot of those bikes ended up being raced in a flat track. And a lot of them got destroyed. There were some real problems with those bikes in racing them. Suzuki, when they developed that bike, they started 3 or 4 years before that. They looked at Huskies, they looked at CZs, and this is what they came up with, the first attempt. And so Suzuki's the first company to build a purpose-built race bike.
In the RH67?
Yeah, exactly. And those are the first ones that really become available.
Yeah.
So, you know, the best we can figure, there's maybe, in the U.S., there's maybe 30 of those bikes.
And how many do you own now?
I don't don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll leave it at that.
It's not 30.
Okay.
So, and I've helped a lot of you guys finish theirs. And I got onto those bikes before anybody else thought about it.
I know you did, and I know you helped out Brad Lackey a lot on
Right.
his, where he needed a certain Kickstarter gear, and I know you've had some parts remanufactured for those bikes. In fact, depending on what happens here with an RE67 that may sell this week, Brad is thinking about putting his bike for sale.
Okay.
So I'm gonna kind of let that out there. It is a Brad Lackey bike, and I know it's restored perfectly. Chris
Right.
had something to do with it. So he may be letting that out there in the open market.
Well, a lot of people don't know, Brad's brother Randy, he raced one of those bikes. Brad never raced one, but his brother had one from a local dealer that he was racing, and and it's pretty cool that there was one in the family, and that's on a collectible. That's a real sought after bike because Suzuki's the first company to really go after motocross officially.
Right.
And so it's a great piece of history, and it's a beautiful bike.
It is. It looks like nothing else, really.
Yeah.
The color
Yeah.
blue and the silver, and with the two pipes,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic bike to look at, and it was quite a good performer too,
Right.
from what
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, yes and no. They had some problems, but it was a great. It's a piece of history.
Okay.
So
I want to also talk to you about the International 6-Day Trial. Now, you were a gold medal winner in the International 6-Day Trial. That was in Austria?
I got to go. My first 6 days was in 1975. It was at the Isle of Man, and that was my first one. And I was very fortunate. Prior to that, in the early 70s, I was working in a Yamaha shop and A&A in Redwood City, and really known for a lot of flat track racers coming out of there. Guys like Kenny Roberts started there, Mark Brelsford, Jimmy Odom, different guys, and Yamaha had a real good relation, or the owner of the shop had a real good relation with Yamaha, and they came out in 1972, actually 71 when I got it, a pre-production DT2MX, and they gave me one of those to race, and so I was traveling with Gary Jones and Weiner and guys like that back in the day, and so and Brad, of course, I figured out quickly after that year that no way I was going to stay up with Gary Jones and Brad Lackey, and I'd always been in off-road, and so in 73 I started, 73, I really started focusing on off-road and doing pretty good in hare scrambles and drills and things, and it just timing was right. I had a good relationship with Yamaha, and they asked me if I would want to help be a development rider on the IT series. So towards the end of 74, they had started working on a prototype bike out of the Los Angeles facility. We did some testing, and then that fall, when the 6-day qualifier started, they asked if I want to ride the bike. And it was kind of a race-to-race deal, and I did well, and the bike was performing, and I gave them reports, and they were with me at every race. But I wouldn't know if I was, like the first race was in a place called California City down in Mojave, and did that, and we did pretty good with the bike. The next, and then 3 or 4 weeks or a month later, it was going to be one in Texas, and I got a call the following Monday, hey, you want to go to Texas? And so that's how it went for that during those qualifiers. I think it was half a dozen qualifiers, and because of my motocross background, I did reasonably well in the special tests and the motocross special test. And at the end of it, we qualified for the 6 days, which was going to be in Isle of Man. So they built another bike, and
So was this a pre-production IT technically?
this was a prototype for it. It was started in 74 actually for the 76 model, which I didn't know they were coming out with a bike in 76. So, and the bike after the Isle of Man race in 75, which is I think it was in September, October that year, that bike got shipped to Japan, but they had already gotten started on the 76 production bikes. And so, but they wanted to see how this thing fared after the 6 days in Isle of Man. And we were doing real good Isle of Man, and then I started some ignition problems and had to push it to get it started and different things. And anyway, I was able to finish. In fact, I was the only Japanese bike to finish in 1975.
Were you the only American there? What other Americans were there?
Oh, Penton's, all the guys were there.
Oh.
I mean, we had, back in that period, they would have half a dozen qualifiers around the United States, and there'd be about 300 of us trying to qualify. And they'd take your best, I think, 4 scores. Ski had a team, U.S. team, Penton, of course, and so anyway, I got to go, made it, finished the race, only Japanese bike to finish, but there weren't that many Japanese bikes running then, but there were other Japanese bikes. The next year, Yamaha fielded a team of 3 riders on production bikes that were warmed over, and that was in Austria, and I was fortunate there. On the last day of the special dress, there was a motocross on a grass track, and it was in Austria, it was the Österreichring, which was a Formula One course. That's where it's Park Fermé was. That's where you start every day.
I see.
Anyway, around the Park Fermé, they had the race Grand Prix track, and so they laid out a great motocross there. And so that's, I won this last day special test. And so in that particular year, as I understand it, I was the first American ever to do that. I've never checked the history books.
Wow.
And then the next year I rode in Czechoslovakia, and then life started kind of getting in the way, and so far as work took over. And so by about 79, I was really kind of done racing full time, what I was doing. So,
Well,
it all worked good.
when you say life gets in the way and work gets in the way,
Yeah.
it naturally makes me want to bring up your company, of course, very successful, Motion Pro. When did that begin? How did it begin? And let's talk about how much it's grown, too. So one thing at a time, how did it begin?
Well, from 1974 to 84, I worked for a company called Rocky Cycle. They're a wholesale distributor of products, and then it was sold in about 86. Well, prior to that, I had a solo niche that no one was taking, while I was working there, no one was really taking care of a good source for replacement control cables. So I started looking around and see no one is doing that. I saw an opportunity, and I was able to get hooked up with a vendor in Taiwan at the time. And Taiwan, at that particular time, wasn't too well known for the quality, but I saw a good manufacturer and worked out an arrangement with the exclusive, and I started with cables. So it was replacement cables, and I left Rockies on very good terms, and they became one of my first distributors, and later Parts Unlimited and Western Power Sports and so on and so forth. So, and a few years after that, it was probably 91, I bought another small company that made just about 20 part numbers and tools, and it gave me an opportunity to grow the business. So we started making tools. And,
How many tools do you offer now from Motion Pro?
well, we have, including all the cable part numbers, probably about 3,000 part numbers.
Wow.
But we probably have an actual finished part numbers of tools, a couple hundred.
A couple of hundred.
Yeah.
And how many distributors do you have throughout the country?
We're worldwide, and so we have distributors here in the United States, 5 or 6 national distributors, and we have a couple in Europe and in England. Parts Unlimited is a big distributor, so is Tucker Rocky and Western Power Sports.
And as far as your company now, I know you recently moved from San Carlos up toward the Sacramento area?
Yeah, we're up out of Sacramento, not too far from Hangtown.
Okay.
A little town called Loomis. It's worked out great. Close to the riding, just got out of the hustle and bustle of the Bay Area. So
Now, I remember you telling me something which I thought spoke volumes about you as an employer and your company. How many people did you have working for you in San Carlos at that warehouse?
Well, we should back up just a little bit. San Carlos is a suburb of San Francisco, in the we'll call Silicon Valley, from San Francisco to San Jose. Everything's gone crazy. I mean, you know, Joe,
Oh, yeah.
congestion, cost of living there, and to run our type of business, which isn't high tech in the big picture, it was just going to be hard to find that people could afford to live there and also own a home. And so I needed more warehouse space. Our facility that I had in San Carlos was about 35,000 square feet. Well, I was just fortunate to find a building in Loomis that was 62,000, and just a great building and a nice little community. And when we gave notice, we had about 4 months notice before we moved, and we were.
Hey, you guys. I need the bucket.
You're live. Come and get it. You want to be on TV?
You can have the bucket.
Not really.
I'll just hold that.
Did you drink the energy drink? I knew you did. Huh?
Thank
I'm
you.
kidding.
So, how many people did you have down there, and how many did you take, and how many decided to move that they were
Okay,
going to?
well, when you let everyone know what we're doing, about 4 months down the road, we'll be moving. Out of my staff of 46, 30 moved with the company.
Wow.
Yeah, and some of those guys are to buy houses up there, which it wasn't really possible in the Bay Area.
And they did it, and they follow you, and they're still
Yeah.
up there making a living and working for Motion
And we've
Pro.
added about 15 more folks up there.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your collection of bikes. How many bikes do you have? What's your favorite? And if you could, I mean, they're like kids, you know, you love them all, but...
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have that many kids. So I have about 60 motorcycles. Kind of, they're all over the place. I have some nice motocross bikes, of course those Suzukis, and I've tried over the last 10 or 15 years to buy bikes with some pedigree, with some kind of history.
Sure.
And you know, since I grew up in the Bay Area, which was really heavily involved in dirt track, and so I've acquired some dirt track bikes. I have one of Dick Mann's actual race bikes from the late 50s. I have Joe Leonard KR that he won the Sacramento Mile on, 1959 KR. In fact, from Joe, I was able to get his trophy that he won in the Sacramento Mile in 1959 on.
Wow.
So yeah, I've tried to get some bikes with history. So I have a Preston Petty's Suzuki twin port that he raced. So
Now,
yeah.
I think when I was at your shop in San Carlos that I saw the bike you won the gold medal on. You still have that bike?
Yeah, Yamaha gave that to me. Yeah, so I still have that. But yeah, it's pretty much original.
Yeah?
But back then, when you know, I had one or two motorcycles. It wasn't, and so we rode those bikes afterwards. If I had been thinking, but we weren't thinking about collecting stuff. That's why everything's so expensive now.
Yeah.
You know, when we couldn't wait to get rid of the old bike to get a new bike. So, and that's one thing. That's why the prices are the way they are for fellows that want to get their first bike or restore a bike. So yeah.
I often get this question. I'm going to ask you and see how you feel about it. People often ask me, you look at vintage motocross bikes, you're restoring them, they're going for $10,000 to $12,000 to $15,000. But as guys are getting older, are the values going to hold on those bikes? My thought is, at times, you see a lot of 40-year-old guys who've made a lot of money in Silicon Valley or wherever else, and they're out buying Harleys from the 20s and 30s and 40s, bikes from long before they were born.
Right.
How do you think that's going to flush out with motocross bikes, or do you think that's going to change completely?
Well, I think racing has a lot to do with it. So far as if a guy's going to race vintage motocross or post-vintage, you know, they're going to build a bike for that. And it may not, they're using modern technology on an old bike. So it isn't really the same as what how that bike was raced. And so there's two things there. You have a race bike for vintage racing, which is staying pretty consistent with racing and attendance. And you have guys doing cross-country racing now with vintage bikes. You have trials, everything else. And then you have guys that want to restore and have a bike just like what they started
Sure.
with. And there's always going to be certain bikes like YZs and CRs that guys want to have pristine ones. I'll call them wall hangers. You know, they want to have some beautiful bikes. So I think the good bikes will always be worth good money. And it may level off and go dips, but it's hard to say. And I don't know. Who knows where we're going to be 20 years from now? Now, you and I won't have to worry about it 20 years from now.
I don't think so.
But yeah.
Do you have your eye on anything here this week that you might buy?
You know, I told my wife I was going to sit on my hands.
Yeah.
Because I have plenty of bikes still to work on. So I got a couple of lifetimes worth of bikes to build yet.
Sure.
But no, there's be some beautiful bikes I'd love to have. But yeah, I just kind of there's a great bike that's going to be on the auction on Saturday. It's one of Mark Brailsford's XRs. And it was he was Grand National Champion in '71. And it's one of his bikes, and it's a beautiful bike, and so far as raced. But I just
Do you think you'll get off your hands for that? You're thinking about it, or
I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
So that's why I'm going home Friday.
Good idea.
But there are some guys here that that'll probably be one of, if it sells, it'll probably be one of the bigger sales of the auction.
Sure.
You never know what's going to show up here. There's some great bikes, and it's always a good time to come to this thing. When we started the show, you know, this is a great motorcycle show, a great place to visit with people like yourself and Brad Lackey and Wolsink's here. And
Garrett Wolsink's here with another batch of bikes this year. And
he's got a beautiful 360 twin port.
Yeah.
That I hope that thing sells for over 20,000. So,
I think it will do that.
Yeah.
I think it will because, from the market and what things I'm seeing away from the auction and what those bikes are trading for, plus it's Garrett's